Hello, everyone. First, I'd like to say thank you for listening to my presentation today. Today, I'll be presenting the safety advancements within the sport of skydiving. Now, I understand the idea of skydiving can bring fear, to yourself, but hopefully, after today's presentation, I can help ease that fear. My name is Joshua Vancina. I have been around the sport of skydiving for over 22 years. My father is a well-known skydiver with upwards of 15,000 skydives. Over the past few years, my family and I have developed the name of Skydive Creator. We have multiple small operation drop zones stemming from Illinois all the way to the Philippines. Now, quick fact for you guys. Did you know that there is only a 0.7 of a thousandth chance of dying in a skydiving accident compared to almost 10 times that chance of dying in a car accident? So in today's presentation, I would like to address three main advancements: the ram air canopy, the automatic activation device, and the reserve static line. So first, we're going to discuss the advancements within the canopy. So when skydiving had first became a sport, they used the concept of a round canopy. Now, this canopy was good for the time, right? And it's actually still used today by a lot of military units within the U.S. as well as across the across the world. Um, this canopy was flawed in many ways, though. Due to its overall size, it had a very slow descent. The slow descent would be fine in military operations, but not really for fun jumping, as we say. Also, with the round design, you had very little control as far as for steering left and steering right. When it came to landing, it was also a very hard landing, as there are not brakes or the ability to flare. Uh, Throughout the presentation, you might hear me refer to the term flare. Now, unfortunately, I do not have an actual rig to be able to show you guys. Everything is in the Philippines currently. But when I refer to the term flaring, it's ultimately you have your D-rings, which are on your shoulder here. Then you have toggles, which come up, which is your line set here. Now, when you're coming in for your landing, a flare is when you have your toggles and you have your brake and you do a three-step flare. Now, this flare is ultimately to slow your speeds and bring you to the ground gracefully. So with the round canopy, you didn't have that ability. Now, over the years, though, the skydiving industry has adapted the ram air canopy. The ram air canopy is a rectangle design which ultimately allows air to come through the front of the canopy. I actually have a picture here to show you guys what I'm referring to. So this is the ram air canopy right here. As you can see, you have these cells at the top. Each cell ultimately allows air to come through the top, go through, and come out the back end, which is called the tail. As what I was talking about for the round, this is a round here. You do not have the ability to do such with this canopy. So, moving on though. With the new design though, it allows skydivers to actually be able to control the canopy. When air comes through it, it gives it a wing shape, which is ideal for the skydiving industry. It's a lot more aerodynamic and a lot more controllable. Now, with it being more controllable too, you also have the ability to brake or flare. With the ability to do that has opened many doors for different competitions in the skydiving industry, such as swooping. So with the advancements in skydivers' parachutes, what advances can be made for mid-air or free fall? Well, this is actually the same question a lot of skydivers had asked themselves over the years. They actually designed something that could help mitigate, issues up in the air, whether it's a skydiver that has become unconscious due to an injury, has contacted another skydiver, and this device is called the Automatic Activation Device, or AAD. The AAD is designed to open up a skydiver's reserve parachute in the instance that they have actually become unconscious. I have a picture here of what this looks like. So this is a Vigil AAD. Now there are a couple different designs out there, but everything that is out there all serves the same purpose. What the AAD is, it's a little computer that's actually attached to the reserve closing loop. Now, what happens is when a skydiver is falling in free fall, they are creating speed. This computer here will actually measure the air pressure around the skydiver as well as measure their speed. Now, before a skydiver goes on its jump, they can actually go into this computer, program the altitude that if they were to be unconscious, they would want the canopy to open by. The rule of thumb is that most skydivers are to open at around 5,500 feet. So, for instance, if you went in here and you programmed it at 4,800 feet, and if you're falling, you're unconscious, you're building up speed, building faster, 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 what this will do is be like, okay, I'm registering we're at 5,000 feet now. Something's going on. 4,900 feet, 4,800 feet. At 4,800 feet, this computer will then actually send a spark. It'll go through the cable and it'll ignite the reserve closing loop, allowing the reserve canopy to come and inflate above the skydiver. Now, it's a great, um, advancement in the world for skydiving. Unfortunately, though, as it is a great design, there's an organization that kind of oversees skydiving called United States Parachutists Association, or USPA. Now, unfortunately, they do not set rules and guidelines forcing every skydiver to have this. But on the plus side, a lot of skydiving operations, and you go there, they will check for this device. It is a lifesaver. It's been true time and time again. It's saved thousands and thousands of lives. So while we're on the topic, though, of reserve canopies, have you actually wondered how a reserve canopy is deployed? Now, there's a couple ways that a reserve canopy can actually be deployed. You obviously have your handles, which again, like I said, if I had my canopy here, I'd actually be able to show you what handles I'm referring to. But you'll have a handle on your left side and your right side. Now, for any situation, let's say you got into a line twist and your main canopy is above your head and your lines are spinning. Now, you have some time to be able to try to kick and get that line twist out, but unfortunately, there are some instances where you can't and you need to go to your reserve canopy. Well, what there is you have, like I said before, you have your D-rings up top. You're going to have a left handle and a right handle. Your right handle is actually your cutaway handle. So in the instance that you can't do anything else at your main canopy, you need your reserve, you take your right, you'd pull it. From there, you'd go back into a free fall state, so you'd be falling nothing overhead. Then you would pull your left handle. This would then release your reserve. Well, that's awesome, and that's the traditional way. Every canopy has that no matter what. But every second that you're not under a canopy is roughly about 700 feet of altitude you're losing. Now, that may not seem like a crazy amount, but if you think about back to what I said, if you open at 5,500 feet and every second, so now if you're at 3 seconds, that's 2,100 feet. So now you're at, 3,000 feet. That's not a lot of altitude between you and the ground. So there was this concept that was designed, which is called the RSL, or Reserve Static Line. Again, I have a photo for that. So like I said before, this is your D-ring system. As you can see right there in the red, that's going to be your RSL. That's attached on your right-hand side on the D-rings on your cutaway handle. It looks just like that. So what this allows for is, so when you go and you need to cut away your canopy, instead of going back into that free fall state, again, wasting more time, wasting more altitude, as soon as you pull that right handle, your reserve, as soon as that main comes off, your reserve will be opening right behind it. That's awesome. And again, just like the AED, there are multiple versions of this. Some open within, milliseconds of the main canopy detaching. But there actually is kind of a downside to that, because there are some instances where you don't necessarily want that design. For instance, right, let's say you and another skydiver are both under canopy. What happens if you guys connect, right? So now both your guys' canopies are intertwined together. You're not getting out of that. The only one solution is to cut away. So if you cut away, what happens if you have the RSL? Your reserve's coming out. So you're going to be right back in that same exact situation. Now, there are some instances where people have had the RSL, they've had time to disconnect it, and still have been fine. But what happens if you're a new skydiver, or you don't think necessarily as fast, as some others, and you still pull the reserve, or your cutaway, I'm sorry, and your reserve comes out. And so now, like I said, you're in that same exact situation, and your reserve is your last option. So that's why there's kind of a plus and a minus to this, or pro and con to it, because you don't necessarily want to be in. You want to be able to create that separation between you and that other skydiver. At the same time, you guys need to talk too. One cut away, get some clearance, pull your reserves. And that's how it should be. Um, so, like I said, I mean, it's kind of like it's up to you type deal. And again, the USPA does not regulate these as far as making every skydiver have them. Again, though it is a highly sought after investment. So throughout my presentation, though, I've gone over pretty much the three most effective advances as far as for safety in the sport of skydiving. You guys should all now have a good understanding as far as the upgrades from the round canopy to the ram air canopy, as well as when it comes to the safety equipment, you should have a good understanding of the RSL, the reserve static line, as well as the automatic activation device, AAD. So I hope that the presentation has kind of eased your fear of skydiving and shown you some of the safety features. As we all know, life is short. Do yourself a favor. Go enjoy life. Go experience some of the thrills and the adrenaline. You never know when your last day is. Again, my name is Josh Francino, and thank you for your time.